Metalcore labels. Can't live with them, can't live without them. The genre of metalcore is riddled with all kinds of labels. Ones that are huge and have bands from all around the world, ones that are a bit more independent and local to the scenes where they originate from. But what do all of them have in common? Correct. Amazing artists that fill up their rosters. Today, I'm undertaking an important task of brutally ranking all of these metalcore labels to see which metalcore label has the best roster. Now, two things first. This video will probably be outdated pretty soon because bands are switching labels these days like gloves. And two, this video might hinder my metalcore label relationship, but metalcore labels, if you're watching this, if you're a metalcore label and you're watching this, no hard feelings. I love you all. Well, most of you. Some of you. Some ground rules. The labels I picked out are labels that are primarily metalcore, deathcore, hardcore adjacent. So obviously we're not including big dogs like RCA or Sony Music because sure, they have like Bring Me the Horizon and Sleep Token, but you know, they also have other bunch of big artists that have nothing to do with metalcore, so it doesn't really make sense. And if this list is missing any labels, I'm sorry. I forgot. All right, let's go. So here is our today's tier list I've created, which you can find the link to in the description, so you can do it yourself if you'd like. We have your classic S, A, B, C, D tiers, with S being the absolute best, goated, base, and D being absolute trash, horrible, shutdown. Just kidding. Please don't ban me. Honestly, I thought on paper this was a great idea, but if I rank any label in D after that introduction, I might never see the light of copyright-free reactions ever again. Anyways, let's begin. We're doing these in alphabetical order. The first label we're checking out is Rising Empire. Now, these guys are big friends of the channel. Obviously, a lot of the bands you see me cover are from Rising Empire. They're just awesome to work with. But I'm not ranking these labels as how friendly they are to my channel. I'm ranking them on how amazing the roster is. So let's take a look. Here we've got their website. I gotta say, very pretty website. Love these layouts. We're gonna rank a lot of these obviously by the rosters, but the way their websites look also kind of matters. Okay, I'm a designer. What can I say? So first things first, it's a German label. So a lot of these bands are German. They also included Imminence here, but they're obviously not a part of the label anymore. They're independent, so that's why they have a little alumni. Of course, they have Via Nova, which have dropped one of the best albums of the year this year, so that's a big point towards them. They also include some awesome bands like Throne, Resolve. I mean, there's a lot here to love. Half Me, I mean, come on. And Oralize, of course. Oralize. Holy shit, there's a lot of good bands here. I am going to take a stab and rank them at a solid A tier. I think Rising Empire is great. I think they have a lot of really awesome bands, and over the years they've expanded quite a bit in terms of the geography. They have a few American bands, but I feel like they still have some room to grow in terms of just like spreading the word or getting those bands out to the listener. So I'm gonna keep them at A for now. I think that's pretty solid. Let's keep going. From one German label to another, it's Century Media. Bit of an interesting label because they've always seemed to me like primarily focused on some of the more old head deathcore, death metal type of music, and you can see a lot of that already. There's Arch Enemy, there's all these bands that I've never heard before because I'm young. There's also Alt right here at the very top, maybe because they start with an A. Obviously gotta respect a label that kind of expands their horizon a bit with some of the more Gen Z bands like Alt, for example. I don't know if I would consider them Gen, well, whatever. But there's some definitely cool bands, and among some of the more interesting selections, I mean, Electric Callboy is on Century Media. That's worth something. I will say it kind of sucks that I have to hover over each artist to see who they are if I don't know them by their look. But I mean, they have Humanity's Last Breath. That's a really big one. Lorna Shore. Obviously, they have huge bands. I feel like they already have a bit of an edge in popularity over a Rising Empire just because they have some bands that are really big. You know, I'm going to go ahead and throw Century Media also in A tier. I think they are pretty solid in terms of the roster. They've been expanding quite a bit, and their logos are very similar. So Century Media and Rising Empire are sharing A tier. Oh my lord, what am I looking at? So we're looking at Epitaph, a label with a lot of really big bands, with a website that looks like this. I mean, Jesus Christ. Now, some of these bands are like shared bands with other labels, so definitely their biggest mainstays are Architects and Parkway Drive. Those are the two that immediately come to mind. I mean, they also have Falling in Reverse, which, to be quite fair with you, just scrolling through this and looking through all of these names, I'm realizing that I don't know most of them, and for that reason, Epitaph is going into a solid B tier. I think they have a few really big hitters, like Architects, like Parkway Drive, but to me, the overall roster just kind of lacking a bit, and it's not a roster of bands that I typically listen to, like Rising Empire, like Century Media. So, Epitaph, you're in a B for now. Fearless Records. Fearless Records, another friend of the channel. This time, we've got a very varied lineup of bands, and not a very big one. I will say, not a very big one. If we click on current artists, one scroll is all it takes to get to the bottom, but they do have some heavy hitters like Bloodywood that are missing a picture for some reason. They got Don Broco, they got Ice Nine Kills, I Prevail. I mean, all big names, all bands that do great numbers, all bands that I genuinely listen to from time to time. Some other big ones is obviously Volumes, Wage War, The Plot in You. I mean, this has some sauce. This has some sauce. The fact that they had these punk goes pop compilations, I mean, that's awesome. And it's genuinely a label I've spent a lot of time listening to the bands of, like Ice Nine Kills, for example. I listened to a lot of Ice Nine Kills back in the day. Same with I Prevail. So with that in mind, I shall put Fearless Records in a solid A tier. I'm gonna bump them above Century Media, but I'm gonna keep them under a Rising Empire for now. I think this is pretty solid so far. Grayscale Records. I mean, bias aside, look at this absolute crazy lineup of bands. We've got Alpha Wolf, we've got Deadlights, we've got Casey, we've got Gravemind, Make Them Suffer, Heaven's Gate, Diamond Construct. I mean, some of the craziest Australian, specifically Australian, metalcore bands you could possibly imagine. And I wouldn't call this label one of the biggest ones, because these are certainly more niche, smaller bands. But I think the overall scope that they got going on is very focused. A lot of these bands share fan bases, obviously. There's not a lot of bands, but honestly, the quality of each one of these, like I haven't heard some of these, but I'm happy to say that most of them I absolutely adore. I'm putting Grayscale at a solid A tier. I think they're gonna go slightly below a Rising Empire. I think a Rising Empire having so many bands, a lot more bands than Grayscale, just edges them out a little bit. So, A tier. Next up, Metal Blade Records with this absolute 2009 website. Holy shit, this is crazy. Have you... This is a time capsule. It makes sense with the type of artists they have. Nothing wrong with a bit of old school classic stuff. I mean, the featured artists are Killswitch Engage, Whitechapel, Rivers of Nile. I mean, some of the more boomer bands as well, if you will. Cannibal Corpse and Mon Amarth. This is certainly oriented to a bit more of an adult listener as opposed to like a young, a new Zoomer listener of metalcore. So this is already a bit difficult to compare to a lot of the other labels that we've already went through. I think, for myself, Metal Blade goes into a solid C tier. I mean, the reasoning for such a low thing is honestly this website sucks. I mean, update your website, Jesus. Oh my lord. Napalm Records with... I honestly thought Metal Blade is gonna have the worst website, but this is crazy. They're just a bunch of logos with no indication whether you're hovering, like what it... This is wild. Okay, so Napalm Records has some really cool bands like Adept, who have just dropped a really sick comeback album. I am yet to check it out, but I'm very excited. Space of Variations, my Ukrainian brothers. A lot of also more boomer-oriented metal, more classic metal, so to speak. There you go. Nuclear Blast Records. This is one I always mix up with Napalm, just because they both start with N, I guess. I don't know. But they also share a lot of very similar vibes on the type of bands they employ. I mean, I'm scrolling through this and I'm like, Jesus, this is some specific stuff that I don't listen to. Some of these are big, heavy hitters, like the Sepultura, or Lamb of God, or In Flames, Hatebreed, obviously. But I'm ranking these from my own perspective, and just based on scrolling through this and looking at all of these bands, I can confidently say I don't listen to many of these. Therefore, Nuclear Blast, unfortunately, the roster is going into D tier. This doesn't mean you should shut down and you absolutely suck. This just means it's not something I listen to. Next is Pale Chord. Pale Chord has got some interesting bands, but not a lot of bands. Obviously, this is it. We've got Diamond Construct, who they share with Grayscale Records. We've got Harper. We've got Holy Wars, which I don't believe I've ever heard before. Saint Blonde, never heard before. And then obviously Spiritbox 1000 Below, I'm very familiar with. Both awesome bands. So really, I was kind of debating whether to include them or not, but just because Spiritbox is in here, I was like, okay, let's do it. This is decent. This is a decent little roster. A bit all over the place. I have to be fair, and just as much as I love Spiritbox, I can't put them higher than a B tier, just because there's just not enough bands on the roster. But because it's Spiritbox, it's gonna go higher than these two because I just listen to a lot of Spiritbox. It is what it is. Pure Noise Records, another very typecast labels. At least in the past, there were a lot of hardcore heavy bands. Nowadays, there's a bit of more variation, which is cool to see. That's a common thing among a lot of these. And 156 Silence recently joined Pure Noise. Applause, very excited. We've got Counterparts. I mean, that is sick already. 4 years strong. But of course, this is primarily known as the label of the one and only Knocked Loose. And I love Knocked Loose, and I love their last album, and I love a lot of these other bands, especially Counterparts, especially 156 Silence, freshly joining the roster. So for that reason, I'm inclined to put Pure Noise quite high, and I think it's going to be top of B tier. The reason is I'm not quite familiar with most of the roster. I know the big ones, I know Knocked Loose, I know 156 Silence, but a lot of them I haven't been as familiar with, so unfortunately for now, Pure Noise is in B. S tier is looking quite empty, doesn't it? Next, we've got Rise Records, one of the classic, absolute classic metalcore labels. I mean, this is hot topic levels of labels, and that's a good thing. That is a good thing. We've got Acacia Strain. We've got Bless the Fall. We've got Crown the Empire, Dance Gavin Dance, Idola, Memphis Me Fire, Polyphia. I mean, Polyphia is huge, so that's really good for them. Spiritbox is on this as well. They're obviously sharing with Pale Chord. And that's it. Interesting. A lot of alumni. There's not a lot of bands on Rise Records. What happened? I feel like I always considered Rise Records to be like a huge label, and obviously they have some huge bands like Spiritbox, Polyphia. But I don't know, I'm looking at this roster and it's looking a little bit all over the place. It's looking a little bit, I don't know. I'm not finding a lot of the other bands, except for the heavy hitters, all that interesting, all that exciting. So I think Rise Records, unfortunately, is going to have to go into B tier. It's going to have to go above Pale Chord because they have more bands. I'm going to put them above Epitaph, though, I will say, just because it has more bands that I listen to. But I'm surprised as to how small of a roster they have. Interesting. Roadrunner Records. First of all, I really like this website. It's kind of cool. Roadrunner is kind of one of those classic labels as well, and they've been around for a long time. So I was kind of expecting some horrible things like Metal Blade, but surprisingly, it's kind of a stylish little website, and they've got some stylish little bands. I just realized there's like a little filter here. Wait, what if I click current? Oh, well, that changes things. Okay, we still have Slipknot, we still have Motionless in White, we still have Gojira, some big bands. But surprisingly, a small roster again. Not that many bands are here, but love Guilt Trip, love Turnstile, Stone Sour obviously goes along with Slipknot. Haven't heard of Teen Mortgage, but everything else I am familiar with. It's a strong roster, it's just very tiny. And for that reason, I'm gonna have to put Roadrunner top of C tier. SharpTone Records is our next entry. They need to update their website because they still feature 156 Silence, which have obviously moved to pure noise. Other than that, we are looking at some strong bands, man. I mean, we've got Alpha Wolf, we've got August Burns Red, we have Currents, we have Dying Wish, we have Foreign Hands, Holding Absence, Great American Ghost, Kingdom of Giants, Loathe, Make Them Suffer, Miss May I, Mood Ring, Ocean Grove, Of Mice and Men, Polaris, Psycho Frame, Savage Hands. Oh my, it just keeps going. It just keeps going. Stray from the Path, We Came as Romans. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe, with the current roster that they have, with the absolute insane amount of quality bands, SharpTone gets the first S tier of this ranking. What can I say? I'm a bit of a fanboy of SharpTone Records. They have some really insane bands on their roster. And I love to see them grow. I love to see them add more and more talents to their roster and constantly keeping it fresh. SharpTone Records gets their first S tier of the video. Let's go. Next is Solid State Records. This is a big one. The so-called Christian metalcore label. I used to have one of my favorite bands of all time, Silent Planet. Silent Planet is obviously now independent, so they still managed to have a sick-ass roster. Let's take a look. Acres, The Devil Wears Prada, Fit for a King, Greyhaven, Phineas. I mean, they still list Silent Planet here, but sick roster. I mean, it's tiny, bigger than Roadrunner Records. Pretty sure bigger than Rise Records. But you know, these are awesome. We see some big bands here. I think some of them are outdated. Some of them are not with Solid State anymore. But I mean, they have a combination of some big giants of genres like The Devil Wears Prada. They also have some big up-and-coming bands like Save Us, for example, which we recently checked out on the channel. And for that reason, Solid State goes into top of B tier. I think they have a lot of space to grow, but they already have a sick-ass lineup. They're not quite breaking into my everyday listen type of label, but they're up there. They're up there. Solid State. Spinefarm is up next. This is a pretty interesting one. I'm scrolling through this. A lot of artists I'm not too familiar with. Obviously, While She Sleeps is a big one. Her Varsity. I have heard of Dayseeker, obviously. Creeper, like Minecraft, probably. Bullet for My Valentine. Some really big giants of the genre, like Atreyu and Bullet for My Valentine. Some newer bands as well. I really like this little lineup. I don't know many of these bands, but I do like, obviously, Dayseeker a lot. My favorite band on this is probably While She Sleeps. I used to listen to them a lot more than these days, but... So this one's got me scratching my head a little bit. I think I'm gonna put Spinefarm top of C tier, just because I don't listen to many of these bands as much anymore. But I mean, Bullet, While She Sleeps, Dayseeker, I still have to check out their new album, but I'm gonna put it top of C tier. No hard feelings. Next is Sumerian Records. This is a big one. Sumerian is up there with Rise Records as one of the more iconic labels that used to be a household name, if you will. Got some big names. This is the home of Bad Omens. This is the home of Icy Stars. Poppy's on this label. Veil of Maya's in here too. I have no idea what Quandam means, but I assume it means like alumni, like artists that are not with the label anymore. But even this roster, it's pretty solid. I mean, they have some big names. Do I listen to any of them regularly? Probably Veil of Maya the most out of all of these. Maybe Bad Omens. Bad Omens is definitely... Yeah, it's actually Bad Omens. Icy Stars, I am still curious to check out the album they dropped earlier this year. But aside from these, I mean, do I listen to many of these bands? Not really. Do I listen to many of these artists? Not really. I'm gonna give Sumerian a solid top of C tier. Bad Omens is Bad Omens, but you can't build a label on just that one band. Now, listen, I understand the irony of me saying all of that just now and also having Pale Chord above Sumerian, but hey, listen, I'm only human after all, or whatever they said in that one song. Last, but certainly not least, ladies and gentlemen, this is UNFD. Another big friend of the channel, a band that has a lot of really cool talent. This is UNFD. Let's check out their roster. We've got Era, we've got Ghost Atlas, we've got Invent Animate, Like Moths to Flames, we've got Silverstein, Thornhill. I mean, this is not a very big roster, but some of these names, just saying them out loud, makes a whole difference. I mean, Like Moths to Flames, Thornhill, Invent Animate, Era is a crazy lineup already. They have some also smaller but also super fun artists like Ankar and Avoid. Dead is super fun. Dreamwake is super fun. Tropic Gold is actually also a really fun band, and highly recommend you check out their most recent release. This is a solid little lineup, and I think it only makes sense that so many incredible bands that I would consider to be one of my favorite current metalcore artists are on this label, that I put them in S tier. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the tier list. I know some of these choices are controversial, and again, none of these mean that these labels suck and they should not exist. These are purely my opinions based on how much I listen to these bands and how many bands from the roster I actually actively listen to. Didn't feel anything with Nuclear Blast. Unfortunately, there's like only 2 bands that I listen to out of that huge roster full of death metal and deathcore and what have you. On the other hand, SharpTone, UNFD, I listen to pretty much every band, so it's like, it is what it is. Hey, what can I say? I'm pretty happy with this list. I think it pretty accurately describes me as a listener, and I'm very proud that my attire choice today, which I completely blanked on and wasn't planned, didn't impact my ranking, because Grayscale is in a solid A, but not S. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this. Let me know in the comments your rankings. I'm leaving the link to this tier list in the description so you can go ahead and do it yourself. Again, if you're a label and you're watching this, please no hard feeling. I have a band that I love in every single one of these labels, so that already like kind of makes it a bit easier. It's just some of these labels have more bands that I like than others. That's it. That's all. Anyways, with that is it. Thank you so much for watching. If by the end of this video I still have friends at labels, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.